Hello everybody, my name is Fixie People. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new. And let's get into the video. I might be slow on the upload schedule because I have F's in almost all my classes. So cut me some slack, alright? Anyways, let's get into the video. So, we continue our story with Deku, taking the L from Bakugo, because, he let him get it, and him then just going home and seeing what kind of agency he's got, which already one stands out, All Might. So he takes it immediately and says this one. So Aizawa takes it and says, okay. And then All Might then says that he doesn't have an agency, he just sent that to Deku for as a note. And Deku's like, well then where do I go? I was gonna send you to a place where my successor is going. You're what? Oh yeah, I didn't explain that yet. All Might then explains that he can pass on one for all. And then Deku says, that sounds useful. And All Might then explains the quirk and how it got passed down to him. And then Deku says, cool. Then All Might then shows Deku his successor. And his successor is Mirio. Of course, because who else is going to be the successor? And so Deku shakes Mirio's hand, and Mirio and him talk. Then Mirio asks Deku if they can fight, because he wants to test his strength against his, considering he has the exact quirk that his main villain is going to have. So Deku decides, sure. So they go into the training arena. Deku powers up. So does Mirio by going to full cowling. By the way, yes, he's had it ever. You remember when Deku got one for all? That's when Mirio got one for all. All Might already picked out a successor. And so the fight begins. Deku starting out with rumbling the earth, trying to make Mirio trip and fall, but Mirio plants himself and launches towards Deku, which makes Deku think that this quirk is probably something with strength, but Mirio then phases through Deku, and Deku gets shocked. Then Mirio basically suplexes him. And more like a leap, grab the neck, and then slam. Then Deku gets up from the slam by shooting his air quirk, his really strong air quirk, towards Mirio, which actually pushes him up. Yes, it phases through him, but the current just sends him up. So Deku uses this to plant his hands on the ground and start rumbling the earth, revealing rock creatures coming out of the earth. Yeah, the rock creatures from the cavalry banner. And they all jump Mirio, but Mirio, being the goat, destroys all of them, dodges some, and just destroys all of them with minimal stamina lost. It's basically like how Madara took out the Shilomi Alliance. And then Deku sneaks up on Mirio after he's collecting himself and point blank shoots him with a water cannon in the back, sending him flying. And then but Mirio phases through it after getting hit with it, then phases over to Deku going for a punch. But Deku, already knows his quirk, so he waits on the punch Mirio actually intended on throwing it. So Deku dodged it, grabbed his wrist, and then used his, palm to palm strike Mirio right in the nose, pushing him back, which shocks Mirio because people don't usually predict when he's going to throw or not throw a punch. And so Mirio locks in. He was just toying around now and starts decimating Deku with his speed and his unpredictability. But Deku starts to get the hang of it and starts getting hit less. And eventually he gets a counter with his rock hand, where he grips Mirio's hand, pulls him in, and then gut checks him. But he puts a lot into this gut check. He puts all of his quirks into it and punches Mirio. But Mirio, being durable and having one for all, it hurts less. But hurts a whole lot, which knocks Mirio back a bit. But then Mirio and Deku start clashing again, until Mirio gets the upper hand and knocks Deku down. And before Mirio can get the chance to react, Deku sends out his tendrils, grabbing Mirio and then spinning him and then slamming him into the ground, dropping Mirio. And then Mirio raises his hand up and says he yields. And then Deku bows, with Mirio bowing as well, saying that was cool. And so after this, Mirio says he's gonna have to go train with someone named Gran Torino. He's been working with him for a minute now, but he thinks Deku would greatly benefit from his teachings. So Deku decides to go with Gran Torino's agency. So Deku gets there with Gran Torino being old, and Deku talks to Gran Torino, knowing it's him. And so Gran Torino, goes to swing on Deku, but Deku dodges it, which impresses Gran Torino. But Gran Torino goes for another kick, trying to confuse Deku. Like, he stopped moving for a second and was casually back, and then went right back for a kick, but Deku dodged it again. Like, come on, bro. He was legit outpacing Mirio's full cowling. I think he could outpace a few Gran Torino kicks from not even max power. And so Gran Torino says he's impressed and says he'd love to work with the kid. And so Deku and Gran Torino practice Deku using all of his quirks in unison. Like, not just using one and then spamming it. He's trying to teach Deku how to, do what All For One does, where he uses multiple quirks at the same time. Not his max out punch he does, like Tensroll Rock Fist, where he pulls you in, punches you in the face. But then you could combo that with Rock Humans, where he grabs them, pulls them underneath the ground, and just starts punching them in the face with his rock hands. And then he can hit him with a water pulse point blank to the face. Which would be cool. Anyways, that's basically what Deku learns. He learns how to use his quirks in unison better than he already was using. Anyways, Deku, learns and stuff, and Gran Torino and Deku go on a shop, and they're sitting on a Deku goes on a train with Gran Torino, and the bird Nomu shows up, which Deku knows how to deal with Nomu, so he just tackles it and just takes all of its quirks away. He face palms it, and then takes all of its quirks away, revealing it's back to a human. And then so Deku just throws the guy onto the train station with him being knocked out. And Deku got a wing quirk that sprouts out of his back, which hurts like hell, But Deku contains himself and just uses them to fly over to where where the fire is. But of course he's boosted by the wings. It's basically what All for One did in the manga with Hawks' wings. And so Gran Tuna follows Deku because he doesn't want Deku to get in trouble. And so they get on the scene to see Endeavor, Manual, basically the whole group that was there, beating up the Nomus. And so Deku decides that enough's enough and decides to take all the quirks of the Nomus. And the Nomus drop unconscious because of how maxed out they were. Except for the one without eyeballs, then that one just dies because it just has its brain exposed. Which Deku feels bad, but what is he gonna do? Then Todoroki remembers that Ida was around here, but he doesn't see him anymore, so he goes rushing off, telling Deku to follow him. So Deku follows him, with Gran Torino saying he'll cover Deku. And so, Todoroki and Deku go to find Ida, finding him in an alley with his arm being stabbed deeply. And Stain is just there, pulls his knife out, and then points at Deku, saying his blood is tainted. And yes, I mean that All for One is Deku's dad, obviously, because you can't have All for One without All for One. So that's what I mean. And so then Stain licks the blood off his knife, making Ida stunned. And then he pulls out his bigger blade and says, "Bring it." And so everyone tries to jump Stain, but Stain's outpacing Deku because Stain's just so unpredictable. A lot more than Miria was. But not as fast, though, so he can still kind of react. And when Deku gets his blood, and before Deku gets his blood licked, Stain flicks it off his knife, saying he doesn't need that. Saying he's got this. He's got this. And so Todoroki gets irritated and throws an ice blast. But Stain just punches through it and cuts Shoto and licks the blood off, knocking him out. Dropping him, And then Stain pulls out two more longer blades. Actually, just one more longer blade. And dual wields and says it's going to be a 1v1. Because he wants to take out threats to the Hero Society. Or the real heroes. And so Deku says he is a real hero. And gets into a stance. And then Stain gets into his broad stance where he has both the blades pointed back out. And so Stain starts by kicking a blade that he had hidden beneath his foot into Deku's chest. But Deku pulls out immediately and heals himself, which Stain says, just like him. And so Deku gets mad because he already knows who Stain's talking about. So he sends out his tendrils, trying to catch Stain, but Stain just breaks all of them because how strong he is. Remember, Deku isn't as strong as All for One. And so Deku and Stain are clashing and stuff. Deku eventually pulls out the bleed quirk he got in the first episode and starts clashing with Stain that way. And eventually Deku gets his finger blades between Stain's actual blades. And then he breaks Stain's blade, puts it into his hand, and stabs Stain right in the gut. But Stain doesn't care, so he stabs Deku. So Deku, um, Deku, Stain. Then Stain stabs Deku in the chest, right in the heart actually, which puts pause to Deku, and he actually slips off unconscious, which him then healing quick enough for Stain to not be able to take Shoto's head off. And so Deku blows up Stain's arm with his maxed out attack. But Stain, grunting in rage, grabs a blade again and runs at Deku, and cutting one of his arm that he cut his arm off. Let me explain that better. He grabbed his long blades and cut the same arm Deku used to blow his arm off. He cut it off. Then Deku stabs him in the chest. Stabs Deku in the chest. Stain stabs Deku in the chest, and again and again and again and again to keep him down. But it's not working because Deku's just adapted to healing there. And so Deku eventually fights through the pain, grabs Stain's blade, takes it out of Stain's hand, takes it out of his body, grabs the other blade, and slices. And then we see Stain standing still, backing up slightly, and then his chest squirts out blood, and he kneels and slumps over. And then Deku goes to feel for a pulse, and Stain's still alive, out of pure rage that this not hero is trying to kill him. So Deku heals him, only to the point where he's not going to bleed out. And then Deku stomps his head in, knocking him all the way out. He was kind of unconscious, but was going to wake up, but now he's just out. So Deku heals himself, Ida, and Todoroki. And so they bring Stain in, but right as they're about to bring Stain in, Deku should have kicked a little bit harder, because Stain gets out, cuts off Deku's hand, and dips, and they do not chase after him because they can't. He was gone like a flash, with Deku not even realizing his hand was gone. So he regenerates his hand in like a really gross way, and Ida throws up, but Todoroki just gets a green face. You know the anime green face when their look sickened? Yeah, that face. And so then they just report that Stain was on the loose and they had to fight, taking his right arm off. And then Endeavor says why he was going to take Shoto's head off. Ida explains, and then Endeavor says, I'm going to kill him. And then Endeavor walks away, trying to go find the Stain to kill him. And so Deku returns back to Gran Torino and finishes up his hero course. And I think that's where I'm going to leave things right now. I'm really tired right now, so kind of want to just get it apart out there. Anyways, like, subscribe, hit the post notification bells. Hope you like the fights. That's really what was cool about this. This is just a fighting episode. Anyways, see y'all later. Have a good one. Bye.